Hey there. We're continuing in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, in what has been called the Sermon on the Plain, which is a lot like the Sermon on the Mount in many ways. And here we're in Luke chapter 6, verses 27 to 36, where Jesus talks about the way we treat people. Here we go. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. To one who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also, and from one who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic. Give to everyone who begs from you, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back. As you would wish that others would do to you, do so to them. If you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what benefit is that to you? Even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to get back the same amount. But love your enemies, do good, and lend expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. Be merciful, even as your Father is merciful. So this is a pretty simple one here. Not a lot that needs to be said. Jesus says the way you treat people does not depend on the way they treat you. Loving people does not depend on whether or not they love you. Being kind to people does not depend on whether or not they're being kind to you. Blessing people does not depend on whether or not they bless you. In fact, Jesus says, if the way you treat people is dependent on the way they're treating you, you're just like everybody else. He's like, big deal. I mean, that's basically what he says. If you love those who love you, big deal. Everybody does that. If you do good to those who do good to you, big deal. Everybody does that. If you lend to people who are going to pay you back, big deal. Everybody does that. But listen, love your enemies. Do good to people. Lend expecting nothing in return. And then your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. Be merciful then, even as your Father is merciful. So for followers of Jesus Christ, we don't decide how to treat people based on how they're treating us. We don't decide whether or not to love them based on whether or not they're loving us. We don't decide whether to bless them based on whether or not they're a blessing to us. We don't decide whether or not we're going to hit somebody based on whether or not they're hitting us. We don't decide to give or lend based on whether or not we can reasonably expect it in return. We treat people like Jesus says, you've heard this before, we treat people as we wish they would treat us, with the same mercy and love that God has shown us in Jesus Christ. It's pretty simple to say. It's a big deal to do. May God empower you to do that. Have a great day.